Hello. While I thought of it, I thought I should come on here and talk about my phone appointment I had at Moorfield Eye Hospital. I was originally supposed to have an appointment at the hospital on Friday, just gone. However, because of lockdown, it got cancelled, and then they sent out an email saying that they were going to be doing virtual appointments. So in the 13 years I've been going to Moorfield Eye Hospital since being diagnosed with Usher syndrome, which has led me to blindness, I've never done a virtual appointment, and arguably probably wouldn't have been able to do one before. Reason being for hearing aids and not being able to hear on the phone, whereas for the first time having a phone appointment with Moorfields was actually possible. In terms of what happened, it was Professor Andrew Webster, who's seen as the Oracle in RP. Many of you may know him or have heard of him. Really nice person. And this appointment was albeit strange, a little bit more personal, because I had my GN ReSound hearing aids on. So the phone call was being directly streamed via Bluetooth. So I could hear his voice down my ear canals. And often at Moorfields, you're underground, you're in little cubicles, open cubicles, and you can just hear lots of noise buzzing around. And often, because they're talking in their jargon, terminology, not just, Professor Webster, but all of his team, and a lot of them have accents and things like that. It's a real struggle, and actually, because it's so overwhelming and emotional going to Moorfields and being tested, not a lot of the information actually gets digested. So there was something quite interesting about the process of a phone call. So of course he couldn't look at my eyes. Normally they'd take pictures, horrible process, but in order for him to look at the retina, which is what I have damaged, that wasn't obviously going to happen. So he was looking at my last photos that were taken from July 2019. And he talked me through a couple of things that I already knew. So of course the condition that has caused, the genes that have caused my conditions, USH2A. The condition I have is called Usher syndrome, type 2A. I've had genetic testing. He also was very grateful for the fact that I had donated blood and my skin towards research and things that are going on in the lab with Maria Musaji and a few others. And then he said to me a couple of things which I found interesting, which I actually didn't really know. A few years ago, I also got diagnosed with cystoid macroedema, also known as CME or CMO, and a few people I know have had it alongside RP. Now, I got diagnosed with that, say a few years ago. I got diagnosed with that at 15, and they had said to me it can be cured by either an injection, eye drops, or these tablets. We tried the tablets, the Diamox medication, and then we tried the eye drops, and then we tried the injections, none of which worked. So they did say that, this could happen, that it might not actually work. It's worked for some, but not for everyone. The thing with CME, and the reason why we wanted to get rid of it so badly, was because it affects the central vision. The rest of the retinal damage is down to retinitis pigmentosa, RP, so the lack of peripheral vision is down to that. And the last bit of 5 degrees vision I have, which is mainly in my right eye, we wanted to keep hold of that as much as we could, and we didn't want CME to be rid of that. However, it was about 2 or 3 years ago, I went to Moorfields and they were like, "Oh, really good news, Molly, the CME has gone." CME is basically like fluid at the back of the eye, a group of dead cells. And I said, "Well, why can't I see the difference?" And they had said to me at the time, because I'd had it for that long, so I had it for about 8 years, it had already caused permanent damage. So I at the time didn't see that as good news, but they did, because of course it means that no further damage can happen, so that is positive. But what Professor Webster said to me on the phone, which I didn't know, and I must have misunderstood during the appointments all those years ago, was he could see that my sight loss was very significant. He said to me that USH2A is very variable. So some people that have USH2A, I don't mean barely affected, but they're not affected too severely, whereas I'm one of the highest variables of USH2A. He could see from my pictures that I've lost quite a lot of my vision. He said he could see that I'd lost my central vision in my right eye, or a lot of it, and he said he couldn't tell, or he had no reason to believe that CME was the reason for that, and that actually it was the RP that has caused that. So I was always kind of led to believe, I knew that it was possible, but I was led to believe that retinitis pigmentosa was mainly peripheral vision and it would gradually close in, but not your central. But he confirmed my worst fear, basically, that it is in fact possible for my condition to be to affect my central vision, and that to be RP doing that damage, which I had and been diagnosed with many years. On the flip side, on the positive side, he said that many with USH2A do tend to get to my age, 26, or this age group, and should have, I can't remember the term he used, but kind of like a long period of time now where sight should be fairly stable. I personally do think that my vision has been quite stable the past few years, at least, touch wood. So I sort of said to him, I do kind of believe that most of my damage was done, albeit it was quite cruel for me as a teenager losing the majority of my vision by the age of 14. But I do like to believe that the worst of it is kind of done, and that I would be very grateful if I'm able to keep what I have for a long time now. But who knows? So he then asked me if I had children or wanted children in the near future. He talked me through the odds of them having Usher syndrome and my siblings' children. In any case, very unlikely. But as I said to him, it's not exactly on the agenda for me. I'm not in a relationship. I'm not about to seek any kind of fertility treatment. I'm not there yet in my life. And that would be something that I will think about at a later date. But yeah, so that was my interesting phone call I had with Moorfields, and I'm interested to know if anyone else has had any pretty serious appointments done over the phone. This was meant to be on WebEx, but because I was running late, my bad, it ended up being on the phone. So I didn't see his face, he didn't see mine. We just chatted for about 20 minutes, but it still felt extremely personal, comfortable. I always liked him anyway, but something about being on the phone, it can feel a bit cold sometimes, particularly as someone who is deaf-blind. I like to see faces, I like to see facial expressions, things like that. But he did well to keep it on a nice level. But yeah, so that was interesting. And yeah, by all means, talk to me about your experiences. And yeah, go from there.